I've just finished my first 3-week block of my winter base training season, and I'm going to look back on it in this video with you and pick out some of the most important bits and some of the methodology behind some of the sessions that I've done to hopefully give you some ideas of your own. But first, I need to go for a quick bike ride. Oh, and Merry Christmas. Oh, that ride was a bit meh. Oh, well, that's much better. Now, this first 3 weeks of my base training block, let's get into it. So, some people call it general preparation phase. I like to still call it base building. It's a little bit old school, but the terminology is still the same in my opinion. Now, it's absolutely no surprise to any of us by now when you see and hear of these endurance athletes doing as many training hours as they do. You know, it's part and parcel of their performances. And I know I'll be talking to some people out there who haven't got the luxury of doing 15, 20, 30 hour training weeks. But if you enjoy this video and you're interested in following along through my own process, then hit the like button and subscribe, and I will keep you updated in future training blocks. Now, it's really important to have some kind of idea as to what you're trying to achieve in each training block. And when I say block, generally we're talking about a month time period. Now, there's month goals, block goals, there's week goals, and there's also like session goals. Now, my goals during this period really were to get back into the swing of things after an off-season break. So I would look to be increasing my training time, hours, and I guess as a result of that, my training stress score would also keep increasing week on week, but also the frequency of sessions. I mean, it's a simple thing, but just increasing the number of times you ride per week. And what you'll see when I show you behind my training peaks in a second is that the final week I had to ride every single day in order to hit the targets I was trying to achieve. So here we have a quick snapshot. I started off the training block at a fitness of 62. That's the CTL number on Training Peaks. Now, take it with a pinch of salt, because for argument's sake, my FTP at the minute is 350 watts. But my FTP a few years ago, even at 130 CTL, was also 350 watts. So things can change, and CTL or fitness does not necessarily mean what you think it means. So I finished my off season, and my first training block, I ramped it up to 662 TSS and 13 hours. The next week, 15 hours and roughly the same TSS. The final week though, I really pushed the boat out a little bit more, getting nearly 900 TSS and coming just short of 19 hours. My CTL now had gone from the low 60s to the low 80s. One quick thing to notice though is that first week of training, although I rode for 13 hours and accumulated 660 TSS, my work was 9,286 kilojoules. You look at the next week, which looks fairly similar, other than an extra 2 hours of riding, and instead I burn 11,000 kilojoules. Now, measuring workload in kilojoules is like the third arm of monitoring your training load. It's no surprise that the training intensity distribution was pyramidal. You can see that from this cool little graph. You can see virtually every day I was spending time below 60% of VO2 max power, according to WKO. And therefore, I was spending a little bit less time, but still more time than at high intensities, in the 60 to 80% of VO2 max power. Now, obviously take it with a pinch of salt, but it gives you a nice visual as to where you are spending most of your time. And you can certainly see from the taller bars, the taller yellow bars, the days where I was doing proper structured workload around tempo, sweet spot, threshold. And then the red bars, I mean, essentially they are the days where I was Zwift racing or doing some short sprints on a group ride, nothing overly taxing or structured per se. But there's still a 10 to 15 minute accumulation in this intensity zone over some of these days. But as you can see, much less than the other two. Now, low intensity is, surprise, surprise, the priority for me during this period. And it helps me lay the groundwork for future, more demanding workouts. And I'll show you a screenshot of what I mean in a second. So let's have a detailed look at the training block. We started the first week with a FTP test, and this happened to be one of the best FTP tests I've done at this time of the year. Now, we're obviously not trying to peak for anything, but it's important to get an idea as to where we are so that we can formulate the correct training sessions around that. But it's also curious because I do a lot of Zwift or e-racing during the winter months, and it's become a theme on this YouTube channel over the last couple of years. People love to watch the live streams, and I love doing them too. And to be honest, that is where most of the intensity comes from during this period for me. It's usually every Tuesday or Thursday night or on a weekend, one of the three. And I try to distribute it so that I'm not doing, too much on top of one another. Now, there's a couple of other workouts in there. I take a MyWhoosh coach session one evening a week, and the rest of it, as you can see, is pretty much endurance mileage. I try to get 2 sessions a week that are longer than others, just so that I can gradually build on those. And what you'll probably notice as well is that Tuesday is a double day. So if I go to the next block, we can see that although I managed to get a race win on the Tuesday night, I still had time to fit in the endurance ride in the morning, which I'll gradually build on top of. Because what I want to do with a double day like that is gradually fuse them together. By having space in between, it allows me some recovery time, it allows me to get a little bit more sort of out of myself in that evening session that I would if I was to do it directly at the end of the endurance ride. But it's something that I will gradually change over the next block, is either increase the time I spend on the bike in that morning or start to add more intensity there. And you can see from a couple of other sessions, really it's time around or below threshold is the priority. You can see the sessions where, as I showed you earlier with the training distribution, that kind of middle intensity zone, you can see this week comes in the tempo workout on the Wednesday and the session on the Sunday, albeit I was testing out something new there. And then the final block of the week, it didn't start off that well, and I ended up having to have quite a heavy weekend as a result. That's not really the ideal scenario, but it's what I had to do in the circumstance. Now, it's not the end of the world. I mean, I was coming into this week now where I'm sort of relaxing and taking my foot off the gas a little bit to recover. So it was well timed. If I was going to do it at any point, then that would be the point to do it, to not jeopardize, you know, the rest of the week. But given it was the end of the week, it was okay. And as I said, leading up to that weekend, I didn't really have the best week. I was a little bit hit and miss with my motivation and my workouts. And truth be told, the 2x30-minute session at, I think it was around 90 to 95% of FTP, I was feeling it in my legs at that point, and I didn't even attempt to do that session. So instead, I got a mix of intensity and volume in on the weekend, and that was enough to round out the block. Now, just a quick look at a couple of other little screenshots here. We've got 3 points of reference here over the last 30 days of the largest TSS, largest load days, and they're around the 200 TSS mark. Important to pinpoint those, I think, because they will give me a reference point for the next block to, you know, see if we can maybe go up to 250 or 300 TSS on those days. But they're quite evenly spaced out, you know, once a week, not too large, but just enough to allow me to bounce from one to the next. And again, the frequency was more important than having, you know, a really, really good workout like one of these and then not being able to ride for a couple of days. And here's a nice little layout of some of my best efforts during this period. So the e-racing really pulling some efforts out of me. But I was particularly impressed with my 40-minute normalized power and, of course, my 20-minute test. And again, another one pointing out the amount of daily kilojoules I was going through in that final week block. So there we go. Let me know if you want me to revisit another video like this in a month or 2 months time, if you're interested in seeing more behind the scenes of my training. But base training is essentially just the beginning of a long season. I'm excited to share more as and when the time comes. But please like and subscribe, it really helps the algorithm out to see this video and it lets people know that it's worth a watch. Let me know in the comment section down below as well if you're in a base building phase such as myself, or if you've got any favourite sessions you like to do during this time of year to keep your motivation when it's not the best weather outside. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time.